Hello and welcome to the Irish Independent's look ahead to the weekend games in the League of Ireland. I'm joined today by Seán O'Connor. Seán, still early in the season, but already looking like two patterns to me. Bohemians having a very strong start. They've lost their clean sheets record, but have started very well. On top, at the other end, Sligo Rovers really struggling for goals, for confidence, everything else. And everybody else in the middle still trying to find form. Probably question marks over everybody else in the middle.
Yeah, for sure. You're always wary of making assumptions or reading too much into the early weeks of the season, but we are at round 5 now, and a little bit of a pattern, as you said, is starting to emerge, where Derry had a kind of iffy start at home. That was a massive win for them over Waterford last Friday. Michael Duffy hat-trick, of course. Couple of little question marks over Shamrock Rovers. We've known about their slow starts the last couple of years, and they haven't exactly had the start they would have wanted at the moment as well. Big game coming up for them against Derry on Friday, and then you look at the lower end where Waterford, I watched them against Shels the opening night of the season, was really impressed with their second half. It's been really tough for them so far. Sligo Rovers, 1 goal scored in 4 games, 2. So 5 big games to look forward to this weekend.
So if you look at Shamrock Rovers, obviously bruised. They don't want to lose any game. They certainly don't want to lose a derby, and they certainly don't want to lose to Bohemians. I wonder will we see a different team. I mean, speaking to somebody from Rovers during the week, they feel it was the wrong team that was picked for Bohemians. It was a brave move by Stephen Bradley. Went with 4 teenagers in the team. I think that the big fire. I don't think they're able for it. You can say that the same 3 points you get for beating the bottom team or for beating your rivals, but a derby is different and Bows away is different, and I think they struggled. Victor Ojibanoon, I think in particular, he had a really good first 10-15 minutes and he faded as the game went on. Ross Tierney just bossed him out of the game. It was the best game I've seen Ross Tierney have for Bohemians in a while. So with the experience that Shamrock Rovers have, the likes of Adam Matthews, Jack Byrne, Enda Stevens, maybe they'll come in because this is an important game at home to Derry. And on the other side, Derry with the test as well. They got out of jail a little bit by coming back in games, by clawing games back, but I think there's 2 issues. They've already had a lot of home games because of the work needed to be done on the pitch in the Brandywell. You can see it, a lot of clean sheets and huge question marks. So the goalkeeper, Beach, has been under question for the last 2 games, so a point to prove for Shamrock Rovers and for Derry going into this game on Friday.
Yeah, not the start Shamrock Rovers would have wanted, sorry, not the form they would have wanted coming into this game. That last minute concession in the draw against Dundalk, and then you follow that up. I know you were in Dalymount last Friday for the Derby, where it was 3-2, but it was 3-0 for 90 minutes. You can't read too much into that scoreline alone. But yeah, it just feels like there's maybe pressure is too big of a word, but a win would go a long way to the Shamrock Rovers' cause, just with the question marks, some of the off the field stuff in the last couple of weeks. Those couple of results, as I mentioned, like to lose any derby will hurt them, but especially to lose that Dalymount derby against their bitter rivals Bohemians last Friday night derby in that game at Dalymount before it's redeveloped as well. So there was a lot kind of going on in that game, but I think a result here will just quiet the bit of noise that's going on around Shamrock Rovers at the moment, and for Derry as well. Not the start in the first couple of games they really would have wanted, but that was a massive win for them against Waterford, and it's kind of hard to believe it is their first away game of the season coming into round 5. But
I would fear leaking so many goals. I think that will cost them later on, and they're missing. Mark Connolly was a huge figure for a few years, injured a lot last year. I think they're missing his presence. And the goalkeeper, they really need to get Brian Marin back, because Beach, as I said, unfair on him, he was thrown in. I think he signed on a Thursday and played on a Friday. A new player from abroad thrown into the league was a difficult start, but Derry, I think far more question marks over Derry at the moment because they haven't maximised that run of home games they had. Talking about home form, I was at St Pat's on Monday where they played Galway United. I think we said last week that St Pat's needed results, not performances. They needed to deliver. They did that both games, wins at home to Dundalk and Galway United, 2 clean sheets. They were very lucky against Galway. Galway did what Galway did. They frustrated them. They didn't have many shots on target, but really asked questions and needed a moment of magic from Cian Levy. I'd be a bit more optimistic about St Pat's. Max Matta come on for his debut, his first game since he signed. He wasn't fit enough to start. He played half an hour and he had a key role in the game. I think he could be hugely important for them, given how they have struggled for goals. We've seen this season two of the 4 games they haven't scored. And Shelbourne, that derby at Talca Park, I'll question mark over Shelbourne as well. I looked the other day, Shels have used 22 players in the league already this year, and all of that's out of their control in terms of injuries to Paddy Barrett and Oran Casey. But that, to me, I'll be a little bit worried if a manager has already used 22 players in a league scenario.
And of course, I was at Shelbourne, their win against Drogheda last week, and it was a tough first half for them, and it kind of felt like what we've seen before from Shelbourne. A lot of possession, a lot of kind of moving the ball in between the lines into the final third, a lot of play around the box, but just lacking the real end product. So at half time, Drogheda had the upper hand, and you were kind of thinking, is this going to be one of those nights for Shels yet again? But they came out a totally different side second half. Freitas winning the penalty. I think it's the second penalty in 2 weeks he's won, and Harry Wood stuck it away, and then that proved to be the winner then. But just, I think that was a really important win for Shels, just to get the ball rolling, starting the season with that draw in Waterford as well. A little bit of a slow start, you could say, the first 2 games, and I think that win just really got the ball rolling.
But the injuries kicked in, and Barrett, to lose the spine of your team, the spine of their team is Vessel Spiel out to Barrett and Casey, and we still don't know how long. They'll be out for a couple of weeks anyway, Barrett and Casey. That can't be helped, their injuries, but I think that is really going to test them. So the likes of Ledwidge, Gannon, other players are going to have to move around. They recall James Roach from on loan at loan, and he played last week off the bench. So for Shelbourne for the next month, it's probably going to be just patch up as best they can and use the squad. Freitas probably will start. He hasn't started yet. You're right, he is hard to play against.
I was pretty impressed by him. Like, tested the Luke Dennison a couple of times. Obviously he's still searching for his first
still learn the league. I saw him the previous week against Galway where he took a dive simulation for he didn't get the penalty he wanted. He got a yellow card, so he might have got away with that in Portugal. Referees here I think a different attitude. So I think when he starts, I think he could have been impact. We still haven't seen Meepo again. He's been a huge player for Shelbourne, but dogged by a hamstring the last couple of weeks. So Shelbourne, I suppose, for Joey Bryan and his staff, it'll be patching up the team as best they can with those injuries and getting through. The other side of that, I suppose, is the happy camp, which is Bohemians. There's been a lot of angst at Bohemians, been a lot of games over the last few years, a lot of home games, so there's been anger and to the unhappiness at only with beating Rovers 3-2, the concession of those 2 late goals. And we've the Rennie Derby this weekend, Bows away to Waterford, where Waterford again struggled the first couple of weeks. It would be encouraging that they were able to go to Derry and score 2, but that openness at the back to be 2-0 up and to concede 4 would have to be a concern for Waterford.
Like they obviously those 2 goals conceded, Bows conceded against Rovers in the last couple of minutes, that took a tiny bit of the shine away and would have really frustrated Alan Reynolds. 3-0 up, cruising, going into the 90th minute, and just created a really nervy, I know you were there, and a really nervy last couple of minutes there. But it's been a really impressive start to the season for Bohemians. As you said, kind of pre-season, there were a couple of little concerns. They had a very busy transfer window, but they've really hit the ground running coming into the game. Top of the league. I'm watching back the highlights. I know I was up in Drogheda, you were there at Dailymount, just watching back the highlights. That's the best I've seen Bows in a long time, from Ross Tierney, Dawson Devoy kind of staking his claim for one of, if not the, I know there's been a lot of commentary this week, is he the best player in the league? I think some other pundits were tipping him possibly for an Ireland call up in the not too distant future too.
Summer tour maybe not now, he is, but I think Tierney in particular, the way Tierney's coming around, and for Bohemians, the fact they have a squad now, they miss players. I think it was Senna Mullen and Power missed out. Diallo is still in pre-season mode because Bowes and Douglas James Taylor we barely seen through injury, so for Bowes to get those results missing key players, I think is huge, and show that there is a depth of squad there. Harry Vaughan, that Alan Reynolds, he can look at this game and go, Vaughan hasn't started since the first game of the season in the Viva, that maybe he can throw Vaughan in for this one, but it is a very, very happy camp at the moment. Having said that, Waterford and Galway are the types of fixtures where Bohemians have struggled often. Bows and put it up to the bigger teams, and in the derbies they've dropped points against the likes of Galway and Waterford. So to me it'll be a statement for Bows if they can go to the RSC to win it. Galway, the other game, you have 2 managers I suppose who could have a little chat about what it was like last week. Galway and Dundalk both played St Pat's over a couple of days. Kieran Kilduff was at St Pat's on Monday, and they will have seen probably 2 sides of St Pat's in terms of how the experience of that, trying to match them. So Galway, you know what you're going to get with Galway. John Coughlin did speak after the game that he knows they're limited in attack. They have Francis Lamboto playing up front, but it's not really an attacking ploy. The ball goes up to him, he chases it down, and he loses possession. Whereas Franz Piero, Haiti international, who they signed on transfer deadline day, he had a work permit issue. He is now cleared and ready to play. He's fit, so Coughlin was saying he will certainly be in the squad and probably starting, and that could change the way Galway play. They at last have an attacking outlet that they haven't played, that Piero can hold the ball up. He's coming in, he's had international pedigree. he's coming back. He's been abroad for a couple of years, but he knows the league. He understands the league, which often it takes those players like Freitas at Shelbourne. It takes them time to learn the league, and for if Piero can come in and add to the tight structure that Galway have, we could see a couple of good weeks from Galway.
I think the Galway's defeat to Pats there on Monday night, I know you were at that one too, they were really positive for most of the game. Cian Levy's late goal, taking all 3 points for Stephen Kenny's men, but they really impressed me. Obviously pre-season there was a few little doubts over them. There was a lot of fans concerned about their lack of activity in the transfer window. Obviously signing Franz Piero, announcing him after the deadline passed. His work permit should come through now for Friday, but they were really I watched it on TV, they were pretty solid for the most part. Offered a bit of a threat going forward too. Pats really didn't have it all thrown away for the game's moment of magic from Levy, who you're just hoping. We've seen the last couple of years the player he can be, driving with the ball from deep, taking on men, beating your man, jinking by people.
He's great to watch.
It was amazing, but just the one thing, and kind of Mipo Odobeko comes to mind as well. Just that end product, like you can beat 3 men, you can twist and turn men inside out, but it's just it doesn't count for much unless there's an end product, cross into the box or shot on goal. But I suppose for John Caulfield's men, they will take positives from that, even though they took no points from Richmond Park. But I think Dundalk could surprise people here. I've been impressed by them so far. It was a, what would you call it, kind of baptism of fire, I suppose. Their first couple of games, they were really impressive, really put up to Shamrock Rovers there.
Very new team as well.
Yeah, for sure. Really put up to Shamrock Rovers there a couple of weeks ago, but kind of that all came crashing back down to earth. 4-0 defeat against Pats, really tough night for them, and they might have nights like that, just an off night where you have a largely young squad in the Premier Division. It's the first Premier Division campaign for a couple of those players as well. A lot of Vinnie Leonard, he's on his way to Norwich City soon. Picked up a red card there a couple of weeks ago, but he's only 17 as well. He was a star for the Ireland under-17s at the World Cup last year. Owen Kenny as well. There wasn't a goal for him against his dad's team against St. Pat's last week, but I think it's hard to call this one. As you said there, you do know what you're going to get with Galway, but I think Dundalk do have the playmakers and the players on the ball to really ask questions of Galway.
And they finish up then on Saturday with Sligo Rovers and Drogheda United. And I have to say, on the base, I think I said after the first game, seeing Sligo the first 45 minutes of the first game at home to Derry, I thought they'd be okay. They got a really tight unit. It's just been a disaster since then, and I'd be worried not so much from the performances, but just what John Russell has been saying. He's been very critical of the attitude. It's not like decisions gone against them or fine margins or small moments or a pitch or a travel issue or anything else. There's something wrong with the attitude there, and John Russell has really questioned the attitude, the hunger and desire of his players to deliver for the club. It's a very hard job running Sligo Rovers. Every one of those contracts has to be fully funded by the club, by fundraising. That puts extra pressure on them to respond to that, and John Russell so far has been very, very disappointed, and they need a reaction because this season could easily just fall away from Sligo Rovers.
John Russell knows what he's doing. He is still a young manager, but an experienced manager at this stage. We've seen the really impressive work he's done the last couple of seasons at Sligo Rovers in Europe a couple of years ago as well. The young players he has brought through, the kind of players on loan. We know James McManus has gone back there now as well. We've seen the ability he has to really successfully develop players and help Sligo's cause. Kind of pre-season we were talking about, most people were tipping obviously Shamrock Rovers for the league. Derry City has pushed them, but there's really not that much between the other 4 or 5, maybe 6 teams, if you want to call it. Where it's going to come down to Sligo is, can they defeat the teams in and around them, or expected to be in and around them, in terms of Galway, Dundalk, Waterford, possibly Drogheda as well. But yeah, it's a really concerning start to the season for them. 1 point from 4 games, just 1 goal scored. I think they're fewest goals scored in the Premier Division so far. And for Drogheda, I think there's an opportunity here you could look at it 2 ways. Really big opportunity for Sligo to kick back into form and answer the questions John Russell has publicly been
and it's the manager
asking
doing it,
about them.
fans,
totally, and he knows what he's doing. It's not like emotions are high. he's usually a really calm, really well-spoken manager. It's not like he's ranting and raving after a bad defeat. He knows what he's doing, and he knows that he has to say these things to get a reaction out of his players, and he'll be hoping it works on Saturday night. Before Drogheda, we should say it's their first game, their first away game without fans, the first of that 4-match away ban for travelling fans after the Flare trouble in Oriel Park. All the off-the-pitch issues aside, Flair, the Joanna Byrne comments as well, we've talked about in the last couple of weeks. It has been a largely solid start for Kevin Doherty's men so far, picking up 2 wins out of 2 and then a draw. Their first defeat of the season last week in Shels. I was there. They were really comfortable the first half. Enjoyed a lot of the ball. Drogheda really making it hard for the Shelbourne attackers like Will Jarvis and Harry Wood to kind of ask questions of them, but it kind of just they lost their way a little bit in the second half, conceding the penalty and conceding right after the second half as well. So their first defeat of the season, they'll be looking to kick back and get back on track now. But that's a hard one to call now, because they are two sides really looking to get back into form.
We also had the shortlist for the Soccer Writers Player of the Month this month, and no Drogheda United players on it, despite their strong start. So I wonder if Kevin Doherty might mention that. And he's probably been very careful what he says in his post-match interviews, given what happened last week.
Of course, he was sent off against Shels.
Kevin, so he won't be doing media anyway, because he'd be banned. So that's our look ahead to the game week 5 in the League of Ireland. We'll of course have the usual news, updates, and analysis on the Irish Independent across the weekend.